Welcome back to Pick Some Politics, everybody. So there is never a shortage of news these days, but in case you missed a day, we've got you covered. So here are the top political headlines of the week. Governor Kathy Hochul delivering her fifth State of the State address, a crucial one as she enters a re-election year. She discussed her vision for universal child care statewide. She also touched on the concerns over immigration enforcement in the state and her plans to expand major transit projects right here in our area, as well as continued her commitment to safety in the subways. We'll have more on that later. Governor Phil Murphy across the Hudson in New Jersey for the last time as governor had his State of the State as he prepares to leave office next week. The Democrat touted his top accomplishments, including doubling the minimum wage, job creation, banning cell phones in schools, and crime reduction. And city council members came out to protest this week after one of their own staffers was detained by ICE. He was taken in during a routine immigration hearing. We have more on that on our website, pix11.com. And of course, not a week goes by where we are not talking about the 2026 midterms, especially the congressional races in New York. Many New York Congress members facing challengers, including Congressman Ritchie Torres. Former mayoral candidate Michael Blake is primarying him, saying that district needs a change. And Mr. Blake is joining me now. Welcome back to Pick Some Politics. Good to see you.
Always good to see you, Dan.
Let me talk about why this seat at this time. You once ran for Congress back in 2020. The last people may remember is you were running for mayor. That didn't quite work out for you. So why this seat this time?
Because Ritchie Torres has been a failure for our community. When we think about what has to happen and how we have to raise wages, reduce cost, and reimagine the Bronx, that's why I'm running for Congress. Ritchie Torres has been a failure when it comes to immigration and siding with ICE and being very clear that he voted for the Lake and Riley Act that would increase deportations. When I'm saying that we have to protect our immigrants. Ritchie has been wrong when it comes to what's happening in the Middle East. I am saying very clear it's a genocide. Ritchie will not state that. When we think about affordability, I've actually passed bills to pay our businesses on time. Ritchie has not done that one time in Congress. And so when we think about what's at stake right now in this moment, we need real Democrats, and that's what I'm presenting to the South Bronx.
Okay, let me break down each one of those things you just brought because there are many of them, and they are, affordability being first and foremost, right? Absolutely. What is your plan for affordability then that you have not seen Congressman Torres address?
Well, let's talk through housing is the critical cost that impacts many of our families. I've said very clearly we need to end credit scores, increase income limits, and also have a local median income when we think about our housing applications. If you do those three things, you change the game immediately for giving someone a chance. Also, when we think about child care, one of the reasons why Mayor Mamdani and I cross-endorsed each other is we talked about universal child care. Now we're going to see that happen in the city. It has to get funded in a real way on a national level as well. Ritchie Torres has been in Congress now 5+ years. He does not have one bill at all where he is the prime sponsor that is addressing affordability. Not one that has passed and become law. So when we think about what's at stake right now, to actually reduce your costs and raise your wages, I'm actually giving people a vision around that on our Bronx plan, and he's not.
You mentioned Mr. Mamdani and the mayor. He has already endorsed a few races, yours not being one of them yet. Do you want his endorsement?
Of course, and it's one of the many reasons we were excited to cross-endorse him in the primary and the opportunities that's there. Look, he's a transformational figure, and the excitement that exists right there. And when people decide in New York 15, you have a choice. You have someone in me who actively supported Mayor Mamdani to make sure he was elected and supported throughout the campaign. You have someone in Ritchie Torres who not only went against him in endorsing Andrew Cuomo, but then called the challengers against him the Mickey Mouse Party. Well, no, we're being very clear. We have something we're going to show in the community. And if you want someone who's an ally to Mayor Mamdani, my name is Michael Blake.
Let me talk about affordability just one more time here with a discussion about taxing the rich, right? And I know it's a state issue or a city issue, but that's something Mayor Mamdani wants to do. Would you support a taxing of the rich to pay for some of the things to make things more affordable?
We need to. And when we think about it, it's a resource allocation. At the end of the day, when we think about a budget being a moral document, then we have to be clear that we have to pay for the things that we deserve. We deserve better education. We deserve more affordable housing. We deserve our children to be protected. We deserve our immigrants to be protected in our communities. In order to pay for these things, yes, we should tax the rich and make it very clear, as opposed to Ritchie Torres, who just voted on a bill that would increase funding in terms of what's going on to Israel, in particular the government itself, that actually would have restrictions to Palestinians and actually would not protect our immigrants. So when we think about a budget being a moral document, taxing the rich gives us the opportunity to pay for the bills and make sure that the poorest congressional district in the country, Dan, actually supported in a way that we have not been.
You're targeting Mr. Torres and his support of Israel as something to hold against him, tying him to AIPAC. New York Post reports that you took down pro-Israel posts and attended AIPAC events from 2014 to 2017. So Did you have a change of heart when it came to AIPAC?
Absolutely. And look, I think
so
many
you admit
people
that
don't.
You went to those events in 2014 and 2017.
I did, and let me be very clear. I'm an ordained reverend who says very clearly that Jesus was a Palestinian Jew, and I understand at the time there were things I did not know. Many people won't be honest with themselves. There's propaganda and given to you at AIPAC that you don't realize, and then you realize it afterwards. You have to make a change. When you see what is happening and that there's a genocide that is occurring, when you see what's going on in terms of the destruction and not supporting the community, yes, things have changed, and I've learned from that. And I have to be willing to acknowledge that, and any good leader will be able to communicate that. When we think about where we're at right now, also is the personal dynamic. One of the individuals that were killed, World Central Kitchen worker, helped us in the Bronx. It becomes very personal for us when you see a community not standing up in a real way. Now, let me be very clear. We have to make sure that we're addressing, yes, anti-Semitism and Muslim hate. We have to make sure we're standing up for all of our collective communities. But in the same way someone should not call someone anti-American for standing up against Donald Trump, standing against what's going on in Bibi Netanyahu does not make you anti-Israel and anti-Semitic.
I don't mean to bring up the New York Post again, but they did have an article about rabbis in the Bronx who support Ritchie Torres and accused you of stoking anti-Semitism in your campaign kickoff video, which you apologized for in that video. Was it a mistake, and how do you address some of the anti-Semitism claims that are out there? Being
critical of a government does not make you anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. And individuals have to make that collective decision. Now, we have to be very clear on where do we stand. How do we make sure that our synagogues, our masjids, and our churches are safe havens against the rise that's happening in our communities? How do we also say at the same time that you have a humanitarian crisis and that we're not going to be silent about what's going on to the Palestinians? At the same time, that we're not going to allow for a rise in anti-Semitism. You can address all at the same time. And I think too often what's happening is that we're being pitted against each other and saying you have to just take one side and ignore everyone else. When we think about where Ritchie has stood, Ritchie will not acknowledge all communities. That's his own acknowledgement, that's his own rhetoric, that's his own decisions. And I'm saying very clearly, to represent the Bronx, you have to represent everyone.
And where do you see yourself in terms of the Democratic spectrum? And the reason I ask this is because there's been so much talk lately with what exactly a Democratic Party or a Democrat stands for. If you're far left, if you're moderate, Mamdani is a Democratic socialist. So where do you fall on that spectrum?
Well, you know, we always say in black community, not all skin folk are kinfolk. And so not all Democrats are being real Democrats right now. So let's be clear about this. There's a major difference between me and Ritchie Torres. I actually have a vision on how to help people address affordability. He does not. I'm actually protecting immigrants. Ritchie Torres voted for the Laken Riley Act, but that will increase deportations. I've been very clear that we have to hire black women who've been fired by Donald Trump. Ritchie Torres not communicated that at all. So at the end of the day, we have a choice to make. Do you want to stand with someone in Ritchie Torres who is actually supporting Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans, or do you want to have a real Democrat? And my name is Michael Blake, and that's why I'm asking for your vote.
But what kind of Democrat do you describe? Are you a moderate? Are you a progressive?
Well, I'm a Democrat that's not going to stand up, not going to support for Donald Trump. You know, Ritchie Torres literally is taking positions helping Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans. How does someone rationalize at all the Laken Riley Act, which Ritchie Torres voted for? He expressed gratitude for ICE and then provided more funding that would go against our communities. That's not a real Democrat. That's nonsense. Ritchie Torres is the same person who literally has disrespected Mayor Mamdani in every possible way.
But I'm asking you. I'm not asking you what he is. I'm asking what kind of Democrat are you? What's a real Democrat?
A real Democrat is one that's going to make sure that we have affordable housing. A real Democrat is going to make sure that we protect our immigrants. A real Democrat is someone in me who went to all 4 sites to stand with our nurses in our strike that's happening right now, where Ritchie is not. A real Democrat is actually going to say that, yes, a genocide is happening, and I'm going to address what's happening in terms of anti-Semitism. A real Democrat is going to say that we can stand up for our people, and at the end of the day, that I'm not going to succumb to Donald Trump. So when we think about what's happening right now, the reason why I've been successful as an assemblyman for 6 years, the reason why I was able to be with President Obama, be successful there, the reason why I was a vice chair in the DNC, and the reason why we're going to bring change in New York 15 is that I am not going to be silent what's going on in New York 15, unlike Ritchie Torres. A real Democrat is actually fighting for Democrats and not actually sucking up to Donald Trump like Ritchie is.
Michael.